Welcome to The Real News, folks. I'm Mark Steiner. Good to have you with us today. We'll be covering the elections around this country a lot over the next several months. And today we're about to talk with Cori Bush. Cori Bush made a name for herself in St. Louis as a pastor, as a nurse, but also when she spoke out in the wake of the death of Michael Brown in Ferguson. She's a noted community leader, and she is taking on William Clay, a 10-term veteran in the U.S. Congress. His father was a congressman, and she is making a huge dent in this race. The race is coming up tomorrow on Tuesday, and she joins us by phone in the midst of her dashing around St. Louis in her district, in the 1st Congressional District, getting ready for the primary tomorrow. And Cori Bush, welcome. Good to have you with us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So let me just let's go back just quickly for a moment to 2014. And the death of Michael Brown, and the role you played then that kind of launched, well, you were already known in your community, but really launched you out even further. Talk a bit about that moment and what that had to do with your run now for the U.S. Congress.
Okay, so as someone who didn't set out necessarily to be an activist, or I really just set out on the ground just to see change in the community and just to see justice happen. And what I ended up seeing was a lot of people being hurt. I saw innocent people being treated like terrorists in their own community, and the people that I believed that we were supposed to look to for help, that was supposed to represent us, we really didn't get to see them actually represent us on the ground. So we were looking to our elected officials to be there. And we didn't get that. And so for me, seeing the photo ops, that thing was hurtful. You know, we're out there on the ground. Some people have been beat. You know, people have been chased with dogs. Rubber bullets are flying. Real bullets are flying. Tear gas. You know, and we're looking to people to say, hey, that's not right. You can't do that. And that didn't happen, but the photo ops did. And so for me, it was more of, if you have the heart for the community, the people that actually have the heart for the community and that are on the ground in that community need to be those people that are running for these seats.
Well, what is it about this particular district of yours, the 1st Congressional District of Missouri? There's a 10-term congressman. It's part of a familial legacy for him, obviously, as well, since his father was one of the first black congressmen in the latter part of the 20th century. With this class of young men and women who came into Congress. So what is it about his service that you thought it needed to be challenged?
Well, first thing, I don't accept corporate PAC money. My campaign is totally people powered, and it's small dollar donations from people that are pushing us along. And that's important because I'm one of those people that can't afford to pay, put out a lot of money for my favorite candidate so I can get into the luncheon. You know, I can't do that. So I've always felt left out of the conversation. And I believe that people with lived experience, so these policies are made in D.C., and then there are people here in our district that have to walk those policies out. And so to me, having that lived experience, I've been homeless, I've been uninsured, I've lived off of minimum wage, trying to care for 2 children. I've been through so many things, sexual assault and domestic violence. So I can speak to some of the issues that we're walking through. And we've been able to build coalitions here on the ground, but nothing is going to happen if the people that represent us aren't in the mix with us, because that's how change happens. So it was important because this particular district, to me, out of any other district in the country, I believe should be represented by a fighter, because this is the district that houses Ferguson. This is the district that houses St. Louis, where the ripple effect of the work that we did in 2014 and 2015 is still being felt today. So I believe this is a place where we should have that advocate.
So what do you think is happening in your district and around the country when women like you, like Alexandra Cortez, who ran and won, Ocasio-Cortez in New York, and you're running, and women are running across this country who are working class women? What do you think is afoot here?
Well, it's about the fact that we are a huge voting bloc. It's the fact that people look to us to make sure that we're stepping up to vote, and that people look to us to make sure that we're taking care of our families and taking care of the community. But then we're not good enough to go into seats of power. We've learned that that can't continue. That the only way to make that change is to actually run. And so that's what we're doing. I think that we're seeing that just having 20% of Congress being women is not necessarily what we should be seeing in our country, because the thing is, our Congress should be just as diverse as our country is. So there should be women of color. There should be just women in general seated in those positions, because one thing about it is, not saying that a man can't advocate for a woman, but I believe that a woman can advocate probably differently than a man speaking about what happens to her own body. That's just one instance.
So what for you are the core issues that you're running on in the 1st District in Missouri?
Education, quality, affordable education in every zip code, Medicare for all, making sure that people understand that health care is a right, it's not a privilege, and making sure that we have economic opportunities for our community. Definitely fighting crime, and the way to do that is through those other things that I just spoke of. Also, environmental justice, criminal justice reform. We have to have criminal justice reform in our communities. That's a right now issue that we have to tackle.
So a couple of quick things, for I know you have to launch back into your last minute campaigning the day before the election. And I'm curious, first, what is it about the representation that the 1st District has had over the last 10 years, 15 years, whatever that number is, that you think you and other people are dissatisfied with? And what do you want? How do you want to see it differently? How do you want to perform it differently?
Well, what I have been able to do over the last few years is show up, is to be present. I'm out as much as I can. I'm putting my feet on the ground. I'm connecting with people. I'm checking in on them about their needs and trying to push that forward. I'm using my small platform to make people's issues, to put that awareness out. So I think as a congressperson, that is something that's a great thing that you have, is your influence. So being able to speak to those issues, to make sure that your community is educated, to be on the ground, making sure that people know that you actually represent them, because that's the title, representative. And one thing, with the event, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez came to St. Louis, and we had this big event for my birthday, this GOTV rally, and with that event, we had several speakers from all walks of life. We had, people from our disabled community. We had from our Latinx community. We had our Asian and Pacific Islanders, Asian American Pacific Islanders. We had LGBT. We had community leaders. We had just all kinds of just different people, business owners. And the point of that was to show that this is a coalition. This should be about everyone, and not just about people that can pay large sums of money to be able to have a spotlight. So it's about all of our issues. And because I work with all of those groups now and many more groups, that's what should be represented in Congress. Someone who's a person that feels, a person where people feel like they're represented, and that's what we have now. So I think that's the change that we need to see there.
So let's talk for a moment in a larger picture here about the Democratic Party and the future of the Democratic Party. I mean, you and many men and women younger than you and around your age are really making a major push in this country to be heard. There's also a big push inside the Democratic Party now among certain people to end superdelegates' power, so that the other delegates actually choose who's going to be the presidential nominee. I mean, how do you fit into all that?
Yeah, I believe that we should do away with superdelegates. I believe one person, one vote. And I believe that's how our voices are heard. I don't believe that that we should be giving all of this power, to people that we can't even touch for the most part. They shouldn't be able to speak for us. It should be our vote should speak for us. Our vote should speak for us. So I think that we can do away with them. And I know that's not a popular thing, but those are my thoughts.
So if you actually won, you'd no longer be a superdelegate if you had your way.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't. But you know what? Because this is the thing. I have to remember to represent my people, and that's the problem. So if they don't feel represented, then what am I sitting there for?
Well, we're all looking forward to seeing what happens tomorrow. And I know, Cori Bush, you're dashing between places. I deeply appreciate you taking the time with us today here on the Real News Network. And we look forward to talking to you Wednesday when you wake up.
Oh, geez. Okay. All right. You all have a great one. Thank you for having me on.
You too. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
And we've been talking with Cori Bush, who is seeking to become the Democratic nominee in the 1st Congressional District of Missouri, which is also the district where Michael Brown was murdered and killed. I will be covering many more races coming up. I'm Mark Steiner here for the Real News Network. We'll be back very shortly. Thank you.